Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Disney Dining Show. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friend, Steve Porter.
Hello.
Denny Sunderly.
Hi there.
And back on the controls, our associate producer, Mr. Corey Fiescanaro.
Jaleo.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, God.
Well, there it is. That's what we're reviewing. Now, I was not present for this review. I had an emergency with my pup and was not able to attend. And that was a night that emergency vets are no fun. But fortunately, she's fine. She's fine now, anyway. So these guys went ahead and did it. I have been dying to do Jaleo. I have been hearing such amazing things about this place. I mean, really and truly, the kind of word of mouth this restaurant is getting. And, you know, let's leave off to the side that the executive chef or the celebrity chef for Jaleo is Jose Andres. And he does some amazing humanitarian work. If you're not familiar with it, Google him. He really puts his money where his mouth is. So let's talk about it then. Tell me about your experience. Denny, we'll start with you.
Okay. So we went into this and we really, we looked at the menu and we really wanted to make sure to get a nice cross-section. The menu is quite extensive, and the way that the restaurant is based is that in large portion, you would get small portions. So it would all be tapas. And so we had lots of tapas to be able to choose from. And there are a few entrees, and there's also 3 different tasting menus that you can do. One for $70, one for, I believe, $120, and then another one that also includes pairings. So we did not do that. We didn't do the tasting menus, and we put our noggins together and chose a bunch of tapas. One thing that I suggested was...
Now, let me just interrupt.
Yes.
The tasting menus, was this all still tapas, or were these larger portions?
That's what it looked like to me. It's
Okay.
13, each one offers 13 different courses.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, so you're going to be there for a little while. Less so with the $70 one than the $120 one, but 13 nonetheless.
And do you know how much the pairing one was? The
I
third
don't
one?
remember off the top of my head.
I'm sure if it was the second one was 120,
yes.
that one must have been...
I'll look it up when it's not my turn, when I'm not yakking. I'll look at it. So the 3 of us really kind of had a little powwow, and each one of us had dishes that we were passionate about, ones that we absolutely thought the table needed to try. Mm-hmm. So the one that I was the most passionate about was the paella. Jaleo features a kitchen that is dedicated solely to paella. So there's always this big... paella pan going, and every day you have a featured flavor. And so that day when we were there was chicken and mushroom paella, and then a mixto, which will feature like mussels. It was a mixture of mussels, sea creatures in your paella. So
what was that?
It was so the paella, they had either a mixto, which is going to be your seafood, your mixture. So you had mussels and other sorts of things going on in your paella, and then there was chicken and mushroom. So
okay.
We went for the chicken and the mushroom.
A little less adventurous, but I think
we were adventurous, Steve.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, we were.
Yeah.
But this paella was fantastic. And I think we should go in the order that the food came to the table.
Okay.
I think that would be the best way to do this, if you guys are okay with that.
I agree with that.
So I said paella, that's coming. You gotta order that 45 minutes in advance. All right? So you gotta know you want it, put in your order, and it'll eventually come. We started ordering things when we gave our order. Our server, Brad, who was wonderful.
That was awesome.
Yeah, he was really good. For lots of reasons, which we'll explain.
Yes, we will get to those reasons. But Brad asked if he could course our meal. And we said, absolutely.
And explain what that means.
By all means. So Brad, in his wisdom and knowledge of Jaleo and the way that a meal should go at Jaleo, he brings things out at certain times as they believe they should arrive.
Okay.
And so we put in our order, and the first thing came out when the first thing should. It didn't all kind of land on the table in one giant clump, which was nice because then we could really savor the different textures and tastes that were coming to the table at the time.
Because we were then all experiencing everything together, it was really nice for this review because instead of everyone kind of trying different things all at once, that can get tricky when you're discussing. Yeah. When you're all trying the same thing, it's like, let's create a discussion here about what we're eating. And that is something that I imagine would be fun, not just for what we do, but for just like if I were to come here with my family, just to discuss what you're eating. You don't really have those opportunities at any other, or a lot of the other restaurants at Walt Disney World. So that was unique and really cool.
Absolutely. And our meal started at 1, it ended at 3. So having your meal coursed does take longer, but it also allows you to really savor and enjoy what you have.
But one of the things that, one of the things one of the main things we note with any dining review is, are we being rushed?
Yeah.
Because that's not unheard of at Disney restaurants. They want to turn those tables over, especially when they're getting the kind of prices that a restaurant like this is getting. Yeah. So it's nice to hear that they pace it out like that, and they'll do it for you, basically.
They will. And I'm glad that you brought up the price, because Jaleo is not inexpensive.
Yes. I'm looking at this menu that we have on the site, and you're talking about, tapas, which is small plate, is what that means. I'm seeing $19, $25, $32, $13, $31.
And it's 2 dining credits. And so it's a signature restaurant.
Now, let me ask this question then. With the dining plan, how does that work? Because that normally includes appetizer, main course, dessert, and soft drink. So how does that work at Jaleo?
So the tapas, one of the tapas essentially becomes your appetizer, is what you can do. We sat there and researched it and actually went to the DIS boards because that was the most clarifying, statement that we could find on it, because we thought the same thing. And essentially what the Dizzers thought is, this isn't really the best place to burn a couple of Disney
one tapas plate is considered an appetizer, another tapas plate is considered your main course?
Right, you can do that, or you could get a paella, from what I understand as well, and a dessert.
And it's 2 table service credits.
It's
so
signature.
Just looking at this, I like Jaleo for what it is, and I understand the hype behind it. I'll get into my thoughts as we go along this review. But I need to start out by saying, since we're on the topic now, this is probably the worst value if you were using a Disney dining plan.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless that paella was going to give you a massage and cook you breakfast in the morning.
It was.
No, I can't see it being worth that.
It was fantastic. But so, Steve, you were the first thing to land on the table was inspired by you.
Yes, I've had it in the past. Can I have your help with the pronunciation?
Absolutely. Anchoas d'un Pocart.
Yes, and it was basically anchovies, canned anchovies that you put on top of bread with tomato paste.
Oh, Pete, yeah.
No. I'm telling you, no, it sounds terrible. It really does.
Okay, you lost me at anchovies.
I know.
You lost me at anchovies.
I know I probably lost most of you out there too, and I am not an advocate or fan of anchovies normally, but it is in like a bed of olive oil, and that's really all you taste. There's not a strong. Yeah. There's a slight fishy taste to it, but barely. Very, very light.
This scared me a lot. In fact, the first piece of bread I got, because the bread that it served with, I can't say better things about. This bread is delicious. And I've gotten that the first time I've ever been to Jaleo, and I really enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite things. But adding the anchovies to it, I'm just like, I've never eaten anchovies before, and I could really go the rest of my life saying that and be totally fine. But I gave it a shot. Steve said, give it a shot. So I did. And, you're right. It just added a little bit more of a salty, oily taste to it, which is fine. My only complaint, though, is to order the bread is $12. To order the bread with the anchovies, it's just 1 can of anchovies, is $30. That's a jump.
Anchovies.
Yeah,
that's
a big jump in price. But I'm telling you.
Wait. Hold. Order the bread was how much?
12.
Add a can of anchovies.
30.
So $18 for a can of anchovies.
I also there's context.
Again, I go back to massage and breakfast in the morning.
There's context to this. I've heard from people that I had this dish with the first time, and apparently in Spain and Portugal, canned foods are actually like seen as a good. It's like not the way that we see canned foods as like a cheap alternative. It's seen as like, wow, that's a very fancy delicacy version of the food because it's like preserving all the flavor.
Okay.
So that actually adds to them. That actually adds value, even though to our American brains, you think that must be cheap and disgusting, but.
It was my first anchovy. I've seen my in-laws get them on Caesar salads for these 26 years. And I just kind of go, okay, to each his own. But I did it, and I was really proud. And so for everybody out there, I mean, Steve, you got a rep as mac and cheese, but dude, you were the one who brought up the anchovies.
I'm not an adventurous eater. So if you're not an adventurous eater, and someone else orders this, I'd still say just try a bite because you really will be surprised.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree with that for sure.
Yep. So the next thing to land on the table were the Croquetas De Pollo, and that was something we kind of all
chicken croquettes.
Yeah, chicken croquettes is what they are. So I think if you followed Jaleo in its opening, this is what you've seen pictures of that comes out on the dish that looks like the Cinderella's pillow that the glass slipper was presented on. And there are 5 of these chicken croquettes. And if I remember correctly, this is something that the chef would get, that Jose would get at his grandmother's house when he was a kiddo. Mm-hmm. So his grandma would make him croquetas, and so he wanted to be able to have those here at Jaleo.
I can 100% see that because the first time I bit into it, I was like, this is very kid friendly because it just tastes like the meat in the stew that's in a chicken pot pie in like a little bite size, and you just kind of like almost like a jalapeno popper but a chicken pie popper. And it was so good. It was
very, very good. Creamy inside, almost like a very finely shredded chicken salad, warm chicken salad inside of it. It was good. It sounds weird, but
it sounds good.
It again, and that would be a good comfort food. We talked about comfort food at Chefs de France.
And this was, and just forgive me for my confusion. Yeah. This was on the appetizer side.
Yes, this is a tapas.
Okay,
it was $12, and. See, because the menu describes it as what was the word you used?
Traditional chicken fritters.
Right, and that it was like pieces of chicken inside there. But my take on it is it was much more like it was pureed.
It was very finely shredded.
Yeah, but like the term shredded, I think of like the triangle dish, appetizer dish at Marrakesh, where like it's like you could actually see the shredded pieces. This was very very liquid and creamy, and the flavor I think was awesome, but it was a texture that I wouldn't expect with meat. I'll say that.
Okay.
Okay, so that was good. If you have a kid with you, that might be something that the kiddo would like eating. Mm-hmm. So that was something that we noted. So the next thing to land on the table was the Portatas Bravas. So Patatas Bravas. So just potatoes. If you've ever been, we have a great restaurant called the Columbia in Celebration and in Tampa. The original's in Tampa, and I know that's Colombian and this is Spanish, but it's a potato that's been lightly fried in oil, and then this creamy aioli is drizzled over the top, and it's got a spicy tomato sauce, bed of tomato sauces it's sitting on. You would have liked it. It had a kick. So that tomato sauce, it was
well, I like
spicy.
it with. I like things with a kick. I don't like it hot.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
Give it a little depth, yes.
Wasn't bad.
But if I'm racing for for a fire extinguisher to put my tongue out.
No. And these are the potatoes. My favorite dish at the Columbia is the salteado, the shrimp salteado. Same kind of preparation in the potato here with the Portatas Bravas.
And this was $14, I believe.
This was 10.
It was only 10.
10. Okay.
Beautiful large chunks of potato.
I will say, so the very first bite that I had was just a piece of a potato without the aioli and the
Tomato sauce.
the tomato sauce that was underneath, and it was just like, okay, this is just a potato. What's the big deal?
Right.
And so that's weird. But once I highly recommend that when you get the dish, to kind of mix everything together like you got a salad that you got to toss, because once you get all the flavors mixed in with the potato, that's what makes it that comfort food, that flavor, and it really makes the dish. Because besides that, you're just eating potato, and most of the drizzle that like goes on top when they kind of put the aioli on top doesn't hit most of it. It only really hits a couple clumps. So if you don't mix it up, then 70% of your dish is going to be kind of bland. So make sure you mix it before you dive in.
And I mean, I felt the exact same way. The potatoes were just basic potatoes is what I got from it, but the sauces added that special flavor, and that's really what I felt like the dish was trying to showcase were the two different sauces that were on the plate.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the potatoes were a vehicle to showcase, like just like you said, that aioli. If you don't like garlic, do not get this. The aioli is incredibly garlicky. It was good.
Yeah.
But it really leads with the garlic. So, next thing to land on the table was the Carne Asada Compuquios.
This is where things start to get a little interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
We kind of go a little off the track here. So, Steve, this is something that you really wanted to try.
Yeah, I figured.
Well, what is it, first of all?
It's a flat iron steak, and it's beautifully prepared. It's it's a little rectangle of little pieces of steak, because it's a tapas, and it's sliced, and there's piquillo peppers that have been roasted that are laid out on the side.
But it is $18, so for the very small portion size, you're paying a lot for the amount that you're getting.
Yeah.
Our problem with it was it came out, and he said, do you like it medium rare? And I do. So I was like, yeah. And I should have really asked them, because they were probably more like the medium and like well done folk over here. And it came out blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not medium
it was
rare.
almost gelatinous in the center.
No. Oh.
Like it was kind of and you were the first one to notice it, Steve. I want it however they want to prepare it. For these dining reviews, give it to me the way that you think is best.
Okay,
Right.
Except if that is going to put me in a hospital
Yes.
or have me
Yeah.
spending my night bent over a toilet bowl.
Yes.
So I said to our server, and he was really nice about it. I just said, hey, we ordered it medium rare. This is very, very rare.
This is still alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he said, oh my gosh, I'll take it back. And they took it back. Another one came out. And again, it wasn't blue and it wasn't gelatinous, but it was certainly still not medium rare. It was like fairly rare still.
Was it bleeding?
The center, the way it was cooked, I would say the outside was cooked
Yes.
to our liking, but that center of it was still like.
I mean, that is going to be a medium rare.
But
and,
I mean, but like
It
almost
was-
still blue.
but
on the
again,
inside.
when they've been sliced, it depends. I mean, does it look like it was a full steak that was just sliced up, or was it just slices?
It was a choice piece, is what it was. Like you could
Okay.
tell this was intentionally done. So if that isn't your thing, don't get it. You're not getting.
Well, I just wonder if they're cooking the slices individually, or are they cooking the
No.
whole
No.
steak,
No.
and then okay, so they're cooking the whole steak.
Yeah.
and
I mean, it's pretty easy to gauge. You know, if you know what you're doing cooking a steak, it's pretty easy to gauge. You know, rare, medium, well done.
And even if a little red is coming out, I normally don't care. It adds more flavor, I think. But this was just kind of beyond that. So I still had a piece just to see what it was, and the flavor was still great, but it was like, I was like, I don't want to get sick, so I didn't have much more than that. And unfortunately, I don't think we finished it even because
No, we didn't.
To take a look at this, it's $18, which seems on the cheap side for a steak, but literally for a table of three of us, that's just for like a few bites. And like they were saying, the first steak that came out, it looked like the steak like you look at a piece of steak going at a grocery store. It was that with a nice char. And then even the second one that came out, it was still far too rare for my liking. And like I've I've always been the psycho that orders well done steak. I mean,
I do the same thing.
and I don't mean to call you that. It's just the
No worries.
majority of people are like, "What are you doing with your steak?" And I understand that. And since I've branched out more, and I'm at the medium well point now, but like seeing a little bit of pink or a little bit of red, I'm fine with that. But like to just have a nice char on the side and then like just bloody red is just, I can't do it.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Can't do
blue.
it.
See, my mom is one of those. Everything needs to be well done. Everything, burgers,
I love
anything. It's got to be cooked. I prefer my steaks medium, but I don't like them well done, and I don't like them rare. So I really don't want to see blood, and I don't want to eat a brick of charcoal. So you got to kind of thread that needle with those. Not really hard to do, but I do understand your point. Like I said,
And
a lot of people are like that. They want their beef well done.
I thought it was kind of a shame too, because the seasoning and the flavor I thought was good. It was just the kind of the rareness kind of scared me away.
Yeah.
And the manager brought the second one out and apologized because, as you'll hear in just a minute, we also had another moment similar. So, he did apologize. He described again what the dish was, but again, it was still a little less done than we wanted. So the next thing, and the coup de grace that came out was the gambas a la Zahara. So shrimp, head-on shrimp. Bless their little hearts. And they came out, and
I heard this story.
there's a presentation, okay? So a big dish is brought out, a saute pan, and it's on a cake a plate is what it is. So it's elevated, and the lid is taken off, and there's quite a show. And I think you have footage of this fiasco.
Yep, it'll be here right now.
Okay, perfect. So Brad picked up the lid and he waves it magically, and the smell comes out. It's lovely. It's really nice presentation. But it's head-on shrimp, and they've been prepared in olive oil and spices, and you have to take the shrimp and dispatch their heads dehead them, behead them off with their heads, and then we gobbled them up. So we each took two. Mm-hmm. Plate came to the table. Steve takes two, I take two, you take two. And we start eating them. And they're good. The flavor's really nice. Mm-hmm. The shrimp that we ate in this moment were done and prepared fairly well, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Spoiler alert.
They were cooked.
Yeah.
I think they were well. I didn't get sick, so it was good.
So Brad, our server, comes walking past the table, and he kind of does a drive-by. He stops, he lingers for a second, continues on. And within 30 seconds, he has turned around and come back to the table, and he says, I see a couple of undercooked shrimp. I see a couple of raw
this
shrimp.
is a good server.
And as he is saying that, my eyes are going to the pan, and I look, and there is if you've cooked shrimp, you know that translucent gray-blue that they have before they are fully cooked. And my eyes see what he is talking about. He scoops up the pan and leaves. And he says, I will bring you back another dish. And we said, okay, perfect. Then Brad comes back and takes my plate, my fork, my knife. My fork and my knife were lying on my plate. He takes all three and says, I'm going to bring out a fresh plate. Goes over to Fiasco, does the same with his. Now, Steve, you had your plate and then your fork and your knife sitting separately. He takes your plate first, and then there's a beat, and he takes your fork and your knife. And now everything has been cleared of the table. He comes back. He starts to wipe down the table. And I said to the guys, once Brad was away, I said, guys, he just took away everything that had touched undercooked shrimp. That's what he just did. He had to clear everything.
Wow.
And that's what had to. And I'm glad Brad did it, guys.
Yeah.
Brad caught this. We didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Our amazing server was the one who caught it.
And for a little bit of context, the dish comes out on an elevated platform, and so you can't. I think the reason why we didn't notice right away is because you kind of have to look
And the steam,
up
too.
in to see. And so I easily, if he didn't catch it, would have taken the utensil that and put it on my plate. And if I didn't look quickly enough, I could have accidentally eaten
Yep.
what was undercooked shrimp. So it was really good on him for noticing, because I don't
That's
know if
an
we would.
outstanding server.
He was awesome.
That's
But
outstanding.
he cleared everything that could have a foodborne pathogen on the table. He cleared everything off, gave us all fresh utensils and plates.
And a sentence you don't want to hear
No.
at a restaurant: foodborne pathogen.
No.
Yeah.
No. But he did it in a non-scary, like he did
Very
it.
professional.
Oh, it was wonderful.
He kind of swooped everything away before you could even have any concern about it. It was resolved.
And
Yes.
one other thing I'd like to mention is I don't think anybody could have caught it at first glance
No.
because once you open that plate, it's just a bunch of steam and the oil is still bubbly. And another thing I'd like to mention is I was at Jaleo on opening day. This dish has since changed. So this used to be in literally a pool of olive oil, which it is not anymore. There's much less oil. And I will also say I preferred the original version. I thought there was a lot more flavor when I tasted it the first time. But
Brad gave you a reason why it had been changed. Do you remember what that reason was? It was just too oily, or something about the flavors not working right?
yeah, I think it was guest feedback.
Okay.
I think guest feedback.
So that's,
Yeah.
I mean, really impressive things are going on here. Meanwhile, we're Googling, okay,
Well, this
where did
just this kind of drives home the point that even when something, and look, things will happen.
Yeah, they
It's
will.
a restaurant, mistakes will happen, absolutely. The importance of the server, the importance of the recovery when something happens makes the difference
Yep.
between a great meal
Yep.
or a good meal and an awful experience that you'll never want to go back there again.
Yeah.
So this guy, it sounds like this guy really saved the day.
Yeah.
He
He
kind of
really
saved
did.
it twice between
He did.
the steak and the shrimp.
Absolutely. So and none of us got sick. So just for the record, we did
Everybody
y'all.
was fine.
Yeah,
Everyone,
that was good.
Okay.
I didn't feel whiffy at all, and my husband was shocked that I didn't have a cow over the raw things coming to the table, and I really didn't, because I think it was Brad. It was just Brad, and we knew we were going to be okay. My husband loved the story when I recounted it later that evening. That's for sure. The paella then arrived
Yeah. Ooh.
to the table, and it was as Steve, you pointed out, it was kind of a rainy afternoon. This was the perfect dish for the rainy
It was
afternoon.
like the first cooler day in Orlando
Yeah.
too, and it was raining outside, and it was like the flavor and the texture and everything about it was so comforting.
Yeah.
That it was just perfect in that atmosphere. And everything about it was just like savory, and it was almost like it wasn't a gravy, but it almost had like that flavor in your mouth when after you swallow, the flavor's still there for
There's
a
a
little while.
coating.
Yeah, there's like a coating in your mouth of the flavor that doesn't go away. Even after we left the restaurant, I think it
Yes.
wasn't by the time I got to my car before the flavor went away.
It's this rice dish that has been, if you don't know what paella is, you've got rice going on, and you've got olive oil, and the chicken that there were chunks of chicken in it that were just beautifully cooked and prepared nicely, and mushrooms.
And especially if
sliced
you've ever cut up chicken and cooked it, you know how easy it is to overcook that.
Absolutely.
Overcook that to the point of distraction. Okay.
Yeah, and this is $21, and when you compare the cost of $21 against the steak, like the carne
Yeah.
asada was what, 18.
Yeah.
So
And the portion size, this was probably 10 times the amount of food as the steak.
Yep. So this is what I would say if you want to go here and not do the tapas option, just get a regular meal. This is what you got to get. Also, this entire theme of all the things we got, for flavor, generally good tack, price per value, bad tack. But this is the best of both worlds, where I would give it a definite thumbs up for flavor, and it's also going to get a definite thumbs up for the price per
And
value too.
if you need
Yeah.
convincing as you're walking into the restaurant, on the left-hand side, it's like an open kitchen, and you can see the giant pans and pots that they're making it in, and that's all you need to see, and
Yep.
you'll be immediately convinced.
Yeah, it was major comfort food. This was the dish out of all of them that the three of us really devoured. We really enjoyed and savored that. And it's something that children will also like because they'll be able to know, okay, that's right.
But not worth 2 table service credits as your main course.
No.
Okay.
But I would definitely go back with family and just get the paella. Get a bread and a paella, and you're good.
It would honestly be a good place to, if you're on the dining plan and you're maybe not on the deluxe dining plan, to save a dining credit one night and just spend your money out of pocket there and get the paella, and then go to a fancier meal one of your other nights because you paid out of your pocket.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just if you're considering doing this, but you're on the dining plan, that's an option.
Yep. Just know you got to have 45 minutes. You got to wait for the paella to come to you,
Right.
and those flavors will change each day.
And
Okay.
I want to be like I am going to be like the opposite voice here. Basically, does this restaurant have some really unique flavors? Yes, but and could I go here and get that paella and get a good price per value? Yes, but if I was on the Disney dining plan, would I ever come here? No.
Oh, definitely.
If I was here on vacation on a budget, would I ever come here? No.
Even for the paella?
Even for the paella, there's so many other locations in Disney Springs I'd rather go to and spend.
Well, let's wait till we get to our
All right,
impressions.
Fiasco.
Okay.
You're throwing down here. So we're now on to desserts, and the first dessert to arrive sounded like such a good thing, but when it came, it was very womp womp. So it was the helados y sorbetos, and that was Fiasco's sorbet.
Yeah, so that was a scoop of was it strawberry?
Not scoops, certainly
A
not scoops.
scoop.
It was a bite.
And
It was a bite of raspberry sorbet, and it was literally just a bite. It was decent, and it was $9, and it was a bite.
That's insane.
It was such a small scoop.
It was about a half
sad.
dollar
Yeah.
in size.
Yeah.
It was really
It
sad.
was pretty sad.
So that's about all I got to say about the bite.
Hashtag sad.
Yeah.
Okay, next one that came, the two that came was my pan con chocolat, which was a chocolate custard with a caramelized bread, olive oil, and brioche ice cream. If you've never had brioche ice cream, good heavens, you need to. Go to Jaleo and ask for the brioche ice cream and gobble it down. It was amazing. And I thought, what, bread flavored ice cream? No, it was warm and custardy and comforting. And it was just something very, very different than I have had. I enjoyed it. The caramelized bread crisp was really a neat thing to see, not something you're going to see anywhere else. And it was sweet and it was unique. So I really enjoyed it. And then, Steve, you got...
It was like a grapefruit dessert with olive oil ice cream on top. So it was essentially olive oil ice cream, then a layer of like grapefruit icy, and then with the bottom layer of just chunks of grapefruit. And Brad recommended to get a scoop kind of each of the different textures. And that was, I think, a decent recommendation if you love grapefruit. But it's a very strong grapefruit punch.
Yeah.
It's in your face.
I prefer, actually, that the as odd as it sounds, the olive oil ice cream by itself was
unique.
really unique and really, really good. It reminded me of... you were saying in California.
Yeah.
Salt and straw.
Yeah.
Just kind of like those weird flavors of ice cream that you wouldn't expect to be good, but it was so delicious. And while the combination of flavors was decent, I actually think that just eating the ice cream by itself was much better because the grapefruit flavor just kind of takes over everything.
Okay, so how much was the final tally here?
So it was $190, but you could do Tables in Wonderland. So with Tables in Wonderland, it broke it down to about $168.
Okay, so you're talking about, and there were 3 of you.
Yes.
Right.
So you're still talking, even with Tables in Wonderland, this is a $55.
This is not an inexpensive experience, right. But it is an experience. You're not going to breeze in and breeze out. You're going to be there for a little while if you do it the way that they intend for you to do it.
And I will also say, And you noted earlier, some of the options that we made this a more expensive meal. Like
Absolutely.
my insistence that we get the anchovies because I wanted everyone to try them was an extra $18 or whatever it was. And, you know, we all got dessert. We all got different things. I think if you came and everyone got the paella and one tapas to share, you could make this a much cheaper meal. Not saying that means that this is a cheap restaurant, but I'm just saying there are certain ways that you can make it cheaper.
Does it feel as though you were nickel and dimed for your meal? When you talk about $18 being added on for anchovies and $9 for what amounted to a spoonful of sorbet.
That was atypical. I feel like his sorbet was just a little. I think it didn't seem like what thing is not like the others. That's what it felt like.
All of our desserts came out, and we were like, we get this, and you get that.
Yeah,
it was kind of
because ours were good.
Yeah.
See, for me, looking at everything as a whole, I feel like if you go into this and you don't consider a budget and you don't consider your money, you're probably not going to be bothered. But the moment you start to think, this is what I paid $30 for, this is what I paid $18 for, I can't help but get bothered. And to be here on vacation with a budget and doing one thing means I can't do another thing. It would bother me.
Yeah, that's 100% fair.
All right,
Absolutely.
so let's get to ratings. Scale of 1 to 10, Denny.
Oh my goodness. I want to give it an 8.5. It was really nice. I loved Brad. I loved the fact that he was so on top of his game, and he really took a lot of attention and care with us. The restaurant was not crowded. Again, we were there at 1:00 in the afternoon, and it was just it was a lovely experience. And that paella, just that for me was my favorite.
Steve.
I'm gonna say, this is hard. I would give it a higher score, but I'm gonna say 8.5. The only thing that is holding me back from maybe a 9 is price. And despite Brad fixing everything right away, it was just kind of a little hiccup that the food came out the way it did for the shrimp and the steak.
Okay. Fiasco.
Yeah, so Brad gets a 10, service gets a 10.
Yes, I agree.
But price per value is like a 4. And the fact that the price per value is so rough and you're just paying for this flavor experience, and then the kitchen still messes up the 2 biggest items, that hurts too. So I need to give it a generous 7, tilting more back towards like a 6.5.
Wow.
Okay.
Ouch.
All right. Well, there you have it. 2 8.5s and a 6.5, 7 from Fiasco for Jaleo at Disney Springs. That will do it for this episode of the Disney Dining Show. We hope you enjoyed it. We will see you again next week.